Good morning, YouTube subscribers, Finsightful members, and profitable PTS traders and investors. I hope you've all been having a wonderful week. The markets have been tumultuous. No matter how much good news comes out in the markets, it just seems that it is very, very quickly followed by bad news from the administration. So we had really good inflation numbers come out, and then straight after that we had tariffs put on wine and whiskey from the EU. We had really good PPI numbers come out, and we had more tariffs put on after that as well. So it just really feels like, it seems like the administration that is currently in power in the US, the Trump administration, is really doing everything in their power to push prices down. So they're looking to create a very, very low inflationary environment. They're looking at trying to get the Federal Reserve to drop rates to stimulate the economy. And this will then align with the administration being able to refinance a significant amount of government bonds at a much, much cheaper interest rate. And I think what you'll find is that they're going to continue to do this until they can drop rates by somewhere between 1–1.5% in the US. So what does that mean for us as traders and investors? Well, volatility is our friend as traders, but our spot bags are being absolutely annihilated. Alt season has not come, and all of our alt positions have been absolutely smashed. So if we have a look at what's been going on in the markets over the last month, pretty much everything is down except one coin in the top 100, which is Story, and I think Celestia as well is up just a tiny amount, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But if you then also have a look at stocks, well, it's no prettier in stocks either. So it's all growth assets have sold off. So there's no real safe place to have your capital at the moment, unless you want to have it in just basically cash to then be able to look at buying back in as prices get lower. But and in a low inflationary environment, if you can have money in cash earning quite a high interest rate, then that's going to be significantly beneficial for you. So what you always want to ensure is that if you're holding a significant amount of your wealth in cash, USDT, USD, whatever currency that you want to hold it into, then the interest rate that you are earning on that particular asset needs to be far in excess of the current inflation in that particular country, or the inflation that is happening in your life or wherever it is that you're spending, so that your purchasing power is not destroyed. You have to ensure that you are maintaining your purchasing power at all time. And so what is purchasing power? So purchasing power is the ability for the assets and the capital that you have to maintain being able to afford, or to be able to spend and afford the cost of living. So how much it costs you to fund your lifestyle. If you think about 30 years ago, $1 million was a significant amount of money. It was such a huge amount of money that most people, their dream was to become a millionaire. And now what you'll find is $1 million, yes, it is still a lot of money, but it is nothing like $100 million or $1 billion or $1 trillion. There have been so many zeros added on to our current financial markets due to inflation and borrowing and just the huge amount of liquidity that has been pumped into the financial system and into the entire global market. When you've got basically every single country in the world running at a deficit, creating more capital to be able to then fund the running of the countries, running of the world, this creates a lot more money flow into the world, and then therefore everything, all the prices of everything goes up, and it actually devalues that currency. So you want to make sure that you're keeping up with that. You want to make sure that that's your purchasing power. So you want to ensure that you're growing your assets, growing your income, growing your capital, so that you can maintain your purchasing power well into the future. But at the moment, there's really just nowhere to hide. In the stock market, in the last month, everything is down. In the last week, everything is down. In the last day, we've seen a couple of things bounce back, but predominantly everything is down as well. One of the biggest companies that have been hit is Tesla. We'll have a look at some charts later on. And the same with crypto. So if we have a look at the last month, the top 100, everything is down. If we look further down, even in the top 200, predominantly everything is down. There's a couple here, Layer and Plume, over the last month. But it's been a rough time to be in growth assets. And so Sonic is up. This is the old FTM or Phantom. So when you look at just today, we are seeing some green shoots, TON, XLM coming back at the moment. And in the last hour, we have seen a bit of a bounce back after the overnight sell-off in the US. So it'll be interesting to have a look if we can find any long or short entries. And we'll have a look at some charts around that. But again, stocks as well. Significantly sold off over in the US overnight. So there is a lot of pressure on all growth assets, and if public market assets are coming under pressure, then that's going to have a direct impact on our crypto bags. It's going to put pressure on our crypto as well. But it's not all bad news. Let's have a look at, well, what is story? And how would we go about actually having like if we see something happening in the markets and we go and have a look at it, first thing I do is come over here and have a look at CoinMarketCap. And over the last month when it's launched, it's actually had a terrific run up and launch, and it's actually got quite a large market cap already. So a market cap of 1.4 billion. Fully diluted value is 5.6. Total supply is 1 billion. One of the issues that I see with this is only 250 million is currently in supply. So that means 3/4 of the actual token supply is actually still locked up. And that could be with VC investors, it could be with the owners, it could be for marketing, it could be for a whole lot of different things. So this is what you need to really have a look at in terms of, well, where do we think that the value of this particular protocol can get to if it's still got 3/4 of its total circulating supply locked up. And so then from there, what I usually always go, and I go and have a look at where's the website. And so you can just scroll further down here and usually have it. So have a look at the website, have a look at the X following, and just see what's happening with all of that. You've got all the links in here. These have all been checked by the developers or the owners. So it's a good place to be able to find this information. And so what is story? So AI is going to, I guess, revolutionize the way that humans do everything going forward. And so for AI to really run effectively, it has to have access to intellectual property. So that's all the books of the world or the history of the world. It needs to be able to learn, well, it already understands math, but it has to learn from all of those, from existing math algorithms and how mathematics works. But then if it wants to actually adapt to be more human-like, well, then it needs to access, songs, poems, poetry, the way we write, the way we think. And all of that information comes out in the way that we make X posts, the way we write on Facebook, the messages that the voice messages that we send to each other, the video messages that we send to each other. And then so access to all of this information, access to all of this data is what is going to make the most powerful and realistic AI of the future. And so what Story is trying to do is it is trying to take control of your personalized IP. And then therefore, if that IP, anything that you actually produce is then used by an AI to create a post or an image or whatever it is that the AI is trying to do, then you will then be rewarded for that. So I think this is a really fantastic protocol, really innovative, and it's a great way as we move from Web 2 to Web 3, that the individual and or corporations will be able to protect their intellectual property and then profit from that, rather than what's happening at the moment is you post something on a social media platform, and then that product then becomes that post or that information then becomes an asset of that particular social media platform. For example, once you post on X, you don't actually still own that content. That content is now owned by X, and then X can use that and monetize that. Yeah, so by running ads on it or whatever it is. Same thing with Facebook, same thing with same thing with YouTube. So in YouTube, once you post something on YouTube, that content then becomes the owner of that is then passed across to Google. Yes, you have the right to be able to delete that at any time, and then you have a profit sharing situation where any of the ads or any of the revenue that Google then makes off that YouTube video is then distributed as a percentage between you and Google. A really great way of getting an understanding here is just looking at the whole ecosystem, having an understanding of like how an IP license would work, and you can then customize it yourself, and having a proof of creativity. So if you write something yourself, if you film something yourself, then you'll have the ability to be able to lock or tokenize that content and then be able to profit from it down the track. I think this is a really great little protocol that's launched just recently, and I'll be definitely watching how that progresses. Fear and greed, we are at all time. We've just popped up a little bit in terms of greed. We were down at sort of 19, 17 this week. We've just increased that a little bit, but again, what you're seeing is huge liquidations in the market when everything is capitulating. And like I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, these are the times when you want to be buying. These are the times that you want to, these are the times you want to be buying if you still believe that we are in the current bull run, and we're not. We haven't entered into the bear cycle. It's definitely still Bitcoin season. Alts are just nowhere to be seen. It's pretty much nearly 100% all about Bitcoin at the moment. We really need to see that rally, and then for the alt season to really to sort of start to have more control, then we want to see both the prices of those big core infrastructure protocols, Ethereum and Solana, really start to improve in price and start to become a bit more dominant in the market, which right now they are nowhere to be seen. And when you have a look at here, Ethereum has been one of the worst performers in this current cycle, and that is what's really been holding back the entire alts. Because if Ethereum doesn't look like it's going to pump, and it's the second largest coin by market cap, well then that's gonna be a significant problem for all of the rest of the alts, unless this cycle is a depegging of Ethereum as the sort of OG Web3 protocol. Is there something else that is going to come in, or is there something that's already here which is going to completely dominate the landscape? And something that could do that would be changing the way that staking rewards are funded to people, or the way that the protocols actually create or have Solana's basically now looking at going from a inflationary coin to a deflationary coin. I'll show you that in a second. Huge net outflows of the ETFs, of crypto out of the ETFs. This is the complete opposite of what should be happening. If you have a look here, we are in peak fear. And whilst we're in peak fear, people are selling their assets in their ETFs. This is madness. You're selling like right at the bottom. It's the equivalent of some of the AI agent coins and AI protocols are now sort of 80-90% down from all-time highs. Is that really when you should be looking to sell, or should you be looking to buy more that you have really high conviction of and wait for that return to happen? When investing, you really need to be thinking of the complete opposite of your emotional state. And unfortunately for one crypto whale, a $308 million liquidation in a leveraged ETH trade. So this particular trader, 308 million, I can't even imagine that, was liquidated on a 50x leveraged position. So 50x leverage is not for the lighthearted. You are taking significant sized position and a huge amount of leverage. So small market moves against your position actually means that you're going to lose a lot of your capital is at risk unless you are 100% correct or correct with your with that trade. And so I don't recommend anyone trade at 50x leverage. The maximum that we sort of look at doing over at Finsightful is around about 20, and for novice traders, novice people using the protocol, we look at using sort of 5 to 10x leverage. And leverage is one of those double-edged swords where, yes, you can make a lot of money really, really quickly if the position moves in your favor. But if the position moves against you, then you can wipe out your capital very, very quickly. And this particular trader here basically got liquidated for a $308 million loss. That is huge. So it looks like Trump has been in chats with the Binance team in regards to potentially taking a stake. And when we say Trump, it's just really just his family. And Trump himself is not actually having talks with Binance on anything that represents like him doing business. You actually aren't allowed to do that, but you can't stop his sons and his family from continuing to conduct business whilst he is in the White House. And this World Liberty Financial is the company that was set up by, I guess, the sort of Trump family office to start to take positions in crypto. And they were doing this as he was coming into power. And so there was a Wall Street Journal article that came out and sort of said that Trump had done a deal to reduce Binance's CEO Zhao's penalty, and it just wasn't true. And they've just come through and actually spoken all about that. Now, what's happening with Solana at the moment, besides its price being around about 60% off the highs, is that we have this new voting proposal that's come out, which is sort of saying we want to reduce the inflation on Solana by 80%. And we've got just under 40% of validators that have already signed on to say, yes, we want to do that. So what does this actually mean? So when you think about any type of protocol, well, if it's a inflationary protocol, what that means is that there are more and more tokens being generated every day, every week, every month, every year. So what that's meaning is that the pool of assets is becoming larger and larger and larger. So the dollar value of each of those assets, it's more difficult for that price to go up because there are just more of them. Whereas if you have a deflationary protocol, as you burn Solana for your gas fees, for your transaction fees on chain, there are less and less Solana available. So that means that the value of each now remaining token will be more and more value because there are less of them. So in a deflationary situation, the price is going to go up because there's less of them. In an inflationary environment, there are more, so it's going to be more difficult for the prices to go high. So have they come out with this because of the Solana price has been sold off so aggressively over the last sort of 3 to 4 months? Or is this a new strategy because the Solana network is now very much maturing and they want to create a more fair way for stakers and validators to be able to maintain the network? And one of the risks that you have is that one of the risks that you have is that if Solana does become very, very deflationary, then some of the small validators, some of the small staking protocols that are options that are out there won't be able to profitably be able to maintain their position in the marketplace. And then if that's the case, that means that potentially the Solana network will become less decentralized because there'll be less validators on the actual market. So there's some things that we need. There's some things that people are thinking about at the moment in the Solana network. I think it moving to a deflationary, or at least amending the protocol, so we're not just sitting at a 7% inflationary coin creation every year, but more a balanced method of, well, we have X amount of transactions being processed on the platform every day, every week. So therefore, we are going to reward the validators as a percentage of all of those, so that when there's a lot of transactions going through, the interest rate or the return for being a staker and a validator becomes higher. If there are a lot lower transactions going on in the network, then the staking and the validating reflects that. So we're sort of stabilizing the creation of Solana coins over the medium to long term. All right, so let's get into markets. And the US dollar has continued to sell off. It's sort of stabilized around about that 103. I would suggest that that's going to sort of stick around this area for quite some time. I actually didn't think we would see it below 105. I thought it would sit between sort of 108 and 105 until we saw the Fed come out again. But with all the information that has been published this week, it really does look like interest rates will be coming down. So therefore, money markets are now pricing the US dollar lower. VIX has sort of started to creep up again towards that 30. Whenever it gets above 30, that's sort of peak fear in the global markets, particularly on the S&P 500. And this is a straight reflection of what's happening in public markets. We've been selling off for over a week and a half now, and therefore there's going to be a fair amount of fear in the market. USDT dominance has increased. It's still up and above that 5%. There are a lot more people now sitting or maintaining their assets in USDT rather than in any other assets in the crypto space. And what we will see, this can be a sort of a beginning, I guess, indicator that once people start to put money back into the crypto market, so then that would mean that we have probably bottomed in this current mid-cycle correction, and we could be looking at either pushing back towards all-time highs, or at least all-time highs, or making some new all-time highs. So where are we actually at in the market right now? And so if we have a look at the weekly chart of Bitcoin, and we sort of say, okay, well, when we look at it on a weekly chart, we are still very, very from bottom to top, we're still in a very, very bullish market cycle. Higher high, higher low, and now we want to see this push. So we had from here, 1 second, high, high low, high low, and are we going to do that? But the problem with understanding whether we're in a bull market or a bear market is the markets don't tell you that they have turned until that it's too late and you start to see those lower lows in. And so when you think about what that means is that over here, when we had this first bull push, a bit of a sell-off, a push, a lower high, and a higher high here, when we started to have this little correction in here, people were continuing to buy, expecting this area to be resistance through here and for prices to move over, but they sold off, and then it actually became support and actually became resistance and sold all the way off. And you do not want to be holding your bags from here all the way down to here. It's a 75% decline in your assets. So what we really need to be thinking about is, well, at what point do we start to call this, no, we're not in a bull market anymore, and we're actually starting to see a bear market start to occur. And people were calling it all through here. This is the end of the cycle. The 4-year cycle in Bitcoin just is not validated. It's not valid anymore because of all of the institutional money that's flowing in. Everybody's got an opinion. I'm actually thinking that we're going to see a significant amount of consolidation around this current price between 80,000 and probably 100,000, similar to what we saw through 2024. I think what you'll see is interest rates coming down significantly in the US. Inflation globally will start to decline, regardless of whether there are whether the tariffs are continuing to be increased in the current tariff wars that are happening around the world. And I also think that a lot of the uncertainty around the war in Europe is now going to come to pass. It looks like the Ukraine has signed the deal with the US and is now willing to come to the table to try and negotiate a peace deal, or at least a ceasefire with Russia. I don't know if anyone's actually spoken to Putin about this yet, but hopefully he gets on board and we can resolve that particular current global conflict, because in the Middle East it looks like things are just heating up again, and it's going to be a long year of continued aggression from all parties in the Middle East. They've been fighting over this land for hundreds of thousands of years. It's just so difficult for me to comprehend that, you know, it's now 2025 and we're still fighting over land and resources. So many people, families have been just decimated, and it's just really, really sad to think of that. Total market cap for crypto is down around that 2.5 trillion mark. It's currently sitting at about 2.6. This is an area, this is a level that we really need to hold. If we don't, we're going to see pre-2024 prices. So if the market drops back down to here, we're talking about prices coming back in at that December 2024. If we're going to hit $10 trillion market cap, which is now way up, we're talking about a 4x return from here, if we're going to try and get up here to 10 trillion. So my original thoughts this cycle was we would get up here around about this 10 trillion. I think that is looking like it's going to become more and more difficult to make this push. But I don't know. Who knows what news is going to come out? The US government has said that they're not going to be buying any Bitcoin, but that doesn't mean that in 6 or 12 months, as the economy starts to become significantly better, that they don't decide that actually stockpiling this particular digital asset is going to be significantly beneficial for all Americans. Global markets sold off 1.5 to 2% overnight. The S&P 500. Yes, we're still looking very, very positive here in terms of this bull push forward, and this is just a little pull off. But again, same thing with Bitcoin. At what stage do we start to say that, hang on a second, the bull run is over here, and we're starting to see prices turn over, and we'll see these pre-2022 prices in assets. One of the other companies that we just wanted to, Tesla. So Tesla's been absolutely smashed. Down here at 220, I was sent a message out to some of my top clients and was basically saying that Tesla at this particular price is a buy. If you do have some cash sitting on the table, this is probably something that you should look at investing into. It's basically 50% off. And yes, Elon is probably a little bit distracted at the moment in terms of his duty. He doesn't have his eye on the prize with SpaceX and Tesla and running Doge. Excuse me one second. Have a little sippy sip of my coffee. But I think here's a tremendous opportunity to be able to lock in some early alpha and some value in this particular car manufacturer. Well, I think that's it for me today. That's half an hour up. We've got the Profitable Trader one-day event on tomorrow at UTS. Starts at 10 a.m. We'll also be presenting it live via YouTube Live, so you can log in virtually and check that. The morning session is going to be all about some crypto fundamentals, what tools that I use to actually assess and look at the crypto markets. Then after lunch, we'll be talking very much about structures, tax, superannuation, and how to actually build a trading enterprise, the things that you need to be doing. And then in the afternoon, for all of those PTS paid members, we'll be sitting down and actually building out your layouts and connecting your webhooks so you can walk out as a profitable trader. If you'd like to get some more information on that, there'll be a link below in the show notes. If you really enjoy these market scans, please share this video with somebody that you know, like and subscribe, and look forward to seeing you soon. Just before I go, next week I'll be traveling, so I won't be doing any market scans on Monday morning. There won't be any live ones. I'm on my way to Austria for some snowboarding. So the market scans over the next couple of weeks will be as I can sort of get them out, but I am on annual leave for the next 4 weeks. So just be mindful of that. Have a fantastic day and enjoy what looks like to be a beautiful weekend in Sydney coming up. Thanks, bye.